Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to we'll call this season 2, episode 1 of Here's Why You're Wrong. After sort of starting halfway through last season, we're back with a whole new season. This time, we've got a whole new guest slated for this episode 1. And with me, as always, is America's least favorite co-host, Brenden. Brenden, how are you?
You know what? I think I'm at least a little bit better than the random dude who's with Stephen A. Smith on First Take.
Yeah, that's true.
Marginally better.
Marginal guy. But here's who everyone came to see. They didn't come to see our two mugs. By the way, shout out, we're now recording on a new software that I think is going to look a lot cleaner, sound a lot cleaner, and allow us to do some really cool things in the future. So shout out to them. As you can see them on your screen, next up is Sadier, the Cleveland Guardians GM, or the Indians still in this league. Sadier, how are you?
Doing wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Next, we've got the man out in L.A., who's not actually out in L.A., but a guy who likes to sign a lot of big contracts. Maybe we'll talk about him. Tom, how are you?
What's up, dude? I'm doing good.
For Tom's defense, they weren't actually his contracts when they were signed, so his defense. And last but certainly least, my counterpart from the NL East, the man who is a fan of a really bad team, who 08 still hurts me. Denver, welcome.
Hey, welcome in. Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So Sadier has been a part of this. Denver and Tom have not yet. So we're just going to jump right into it. So it's been what? We recorded right before the end of the offseason with Andrew. And then now we just finished up Winter League regular season and we're going into it. So let's go ahead. We're going to jump right into it and talk about some of the free agent signings. Free agent frenzy didn't really kick in until December when not a lot of people signed early. So we're going to go ahead and talk about good signings and bad signings. Let's go ahead and start with the good. Sadier, I'll let you have the floor, and you can start with your signing, who you thought was a good signing.
All right. I selected Young-Ha Kim, St. Louis. It's a KBO relief pitcher. And the reason –
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, the reason behind that is it's KBO workhorse. They should definitely eat up quality innings, like late innings in his bullpen. And that's what he needs, just another reliever. Stockpiling his arsenal. Yeah,
I really like that deal. Anyone have any thoughts on St. Louis bringing him in? He's a right-handed reliever. Contract signing is just a one-year deal at $4.8 million.
But it's not just a one-year deal at 4.8. It's the 4.8 plus the $9 million hosting fee he had to pay to his KBO team.
Which for me is very confusing of why Andrew did it for just a one-year deal. Last season in the KBO was 1-4 in 55 games, 34 saves with a 4.97 ERA. However, a 1.18 WHIP, averages about a homer per 9 and 6.9 strikeouts per 9 with an opponent's BABIP of 2.91. Anyone got anything to say about this deal? I feel like this one is a high risk for the amount of money he paid. I'm not sure if this is exactly a great deal for Andrew.
I think if he was like if he had been a MLB reliever, that would be fine money. It's the $9 million posting fee that makes it not worth it in my mind. But he has money to spend, so why not spend it?
My thing is, I feel like you could get a guy just as good or better that has a proven track record in the MLB already for less than now the $13 million he spent to get this guy.
I mean, I think the fact that he's going to pitch in his age 27 season this year, you only have him for 1 year. If he does well, how much is he going to cost to extend? Like, we see what relievers are going for at a premium this year, and we'll talk about some of the other good ones and some of the bad ones a little bit later on. But does this anyone else scratching their head about, Andrew, you paid $9 million for a 1-year rental potentially of a guy who is either going to be really good or really bad?
That's why I feel a good deal for him.
I was about to say, aren't we supposed to be talking about this as a good signing?
I mean, I'm just saying, I'm telling Sadier he's wrong. I think this is a bad signing.
That's fine, yeah. I believe the posting money actually gets spread out. I believe the posting money actually gets spread out over the years. So he's not paying it just in 1 year. So it's not that. I mean, I get it. It's still a 1-year deal. He's going to be able to deal with him first if he wants to. And who knows, maybe he deals him if he's actually pitching well.
So, Denbrew, you're the other NL GM. Talk to me about what you think about this deal from an NL's perspective.
NL, I'm not a big fan of foreign players because I got burnt when I signed Minwoo Park. Didn't really mount up to what I thought he would be. So he's going to drop, like, his stuff's not going to be as good or as effective against major league hitters. So, it's, I mean, 1 year it's low risk, but the signing is the posting fee is the part that's a little bit worrisome.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on to the next one. We'll go with mine now. Another Kim that signed. It's Shi-Hoon Kim to Minnesota. He signed on I believe it's a 3-year deal. This season he's going to make $2.5 million and then $5 million a year over the next 2 years after that. Interesting. Another 26-year-old out of the he was a free agent out of the KBO, but if I'm not mistaken, this one didn't have a posting fee attached to it. But you look at his stats, and his stats are kind of worrisome. But the reason I really like this deal is the fact of I really like what he brings to the table, at least according to my scout. And I really like the fastball slider mix. And I think it could really get some hitters off balance, especially in a high strikeout league like eMLB.
You know, the KBO is an offensive-friendly environment. So you do tend to you look at a high ERA, and you take it with a bit of a grain of salt. But even by KBO standards, it was very high. He got clobbered by KBO pitching, and he's going to be facing much tougher hitters in the eMLB. And I don't know if he's going to be able to have any kind of success. It's a gamble.
His BABIP against is also super high in those KBO years.
Yeah.
So it could be a good defense behind him, helps him pick his numbers up a lot.
And that was part of the reason why I said it's a good signing for Minnesota, because some of the other signings they've made, bringing in some of these defensive players and defensive-minded players, their defense is really taking an overhaul. The only question mark they have is in center field, which I think their outfield defensively is where they struggle. And I think the fact of the matter is we haven't seen GT address that. We've only seen him address the middle infield. You've got guys at corner and catcher who can play well, yet you're not going to address your outfield. And I do know for a fact he's tried, but it just hasn't come to fruition, and I think that's going to hurt him in the AL Central.
I find it interesting that he's been promised the role of closer. At least that's what it says.
Yeah, I see that. And he's a fly ball pitcher, according. He also throws slower than the Kim I picked. I really don't like the signing, but maybe this is why you're wrong.
Hey, that's fair.
Hey.
Right.
It's not terrible money for 3 years.
No.
So what if he's terrible and then you're paying him double the next year? So it's just like,
to me, it's again, you could have the same guy for maybe the same money, but with a proven track record in the MLB. Like,
hey,
it's
the same thing about the other Kim. Yeah,
I feel like these signings were too early in the offseason where you couldn't see what the market was for the relievers that were out there.
Yeah.
Something else should be noted here. He promised him the closer role.
Yeah, that's what
I'm saying. All right, let's move over to the other KBO guy. Tom, I'll let you have the floor with what you got to say here.
We've got too many of these guys, but Baeko Kang, I think that's how you say it, is not a pitcher. He's an outfielder, and he projects to be a pretty good one. Let me pull him up. I know he had really great numbers in the KBO, and I think he could translate over to a 3 to 4 WAR type player if he lives up to what I'm seeing on his ratings, at least. So if that happens, his contract for his years 26 to 29 season, like you're getting his prime. But again, it's a gamble. It could not translate well at all.
I think Brenden talks about the KBO being offense first, and that's what we see here. I look at his stats.
Yeah, high stats.
I look at my stats according to my scout, like what his ratings are, and I know ratings aren't everything, and you have to take it with a grain of salt. The fact of the matter is he's a fly ball hitter who's a pull hitter from the right-hand side, which in San Francisco, not exactly the easiest place to hit that way. I will say all around looks good, and I love his arm in the outfield, and I think he can play left or right field for you in that situation. Just the question remains is how is he going to be utilized? I think it's a little bit of an overpay for him, but overall, out of the three guys we mentioned, he's probably the one who's going to fit in the most out of any of these teams. However, we do know that San Francisco does have a good amount of outfield talent as well. So it makes me scratch my head a little bit. But of the three signings we've talked about so far, I think this is the best one.
I think San Francisco needed to add bats to their lineup, and I do like the unorthodox signing. I did say earlier that the KBO is a more offensive-friendly environment, which means the league-adjusted stats rise up to meet it. And by league-adjusted stats, he crushed the KBO.
Yeah, and he's very
In
consistent.
and be a 120 OPS plus kind of guy, great signing.
Yeah, he's super consistent too. Look at it, year after year after year.
I think the fact of how young he signed too is going to help him out a lot.
Yeah, no posting fee.
Yeah, I really like this.
Yeah. So Denver, why don't you talk to me about what signing you liked?
I really like the Aaron Judge signing by our general manager above me, Sadier. $9 million for 1 year. He's definitely I would assume he's going for the re-rate.
He's getting some off-season training.
Get some off-season
He's
training.
gonna get a workout.
So he's going to get a boost because we've looked at his live, and as long as he doesn't tank in the next, month, when we get when the off-season training happens, he's going to improve better than a $14 million contract. Right now, if he's not re-rated, I would say this is a bad sign.
I think Denver, for me, the thing that excites me is the fact he's out of our league and out of our division. Exactly. The fact of his re-rate potential that he's out of Miami makes me a happy camper.
Yep.
Sadier, what was he signed early in this offseason. I know a lot of different teams.
I forgot. Yeah. I honestly thought he was traded to Sadier because I don't remember him signing.
So talk to me about what sort of your thought process was.
Honestly, I targeted one bat and for the re-rate potential and just saw what he was asking. He wanted way too many years. And I was like, if he'll take a little bit more money for 1 year, it's worth the gamble because I really don't care what he does after this year. I have enough prospects coming up that I just need someone to fill in now. And he does that.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully with the re-rate, he'll do that. And if not, then it's just some money wasted.
And Frank, and most of the re-rate is already paid for through a trade that we're making. So,
yep, actually, yes.
It's risk is fairly low.
Hold on, I'd love to be this type of podcast. Do we have some breaking news to share?
Oh yeah, it's submitted again.
We'd be here all night if we went through all
how about we just talk about for this current segment?
No, wait, just wait.
Hold on, for this current, or how about this? We'll do a whole segment at the end called Sadier's Trade Corner. I'm no longer the most trade happy GM. All right, let's go ahead and go to our last one. Brennan, go ahead and talk to us. You went with another outfield.
Yes, Dylan Cousins, who signed with Toronto on a 2-year deal, the second year being team option. Dylan Cousins was the most underrated free agent available, and from the moment the offseason started, I said he was the best value bat out there. The last 5 years, he has been remarkably consistent playing for the last 4 years, he's been remarkably consistent playing for Houston. He's a good power. He hits for decent average. He strikes out a lot, sure, but he adds in a ton of walks. He is a consistent, valuable offensive player, and it's great for a team in Toronto's situation where they're trying to just add good players while they rebuild.
Does it not scare you, the 3 avoid Ks and the 203 strikeouts to the 68 walks last year?
Not really. I mean, if you look at his production level, it shouldn't. I mean, you can be productive while striking out a lot. Players are productive in lots of different ways, and he overcomes it by getting on base.
I mean, his OPS was below 800 last year for the first time in his career.
Yeah, however, OPS league-wide dipped because his OPS plus was the same as it was the year prior.
I don't disagree. However, I think he's a defensive liability, if we're being honest, in the outfield.
So he DH'd.
But do you want to spend that much money on a DH? In my opinion,
you didn't pay. Hard to pay.
No, it's 1 year. Yeah, it's 1 year with the team option.
It's $12.5 million for 1 year.
Okay, so if the experiment doesn't work, he dumps him.
Compare Cousins to Mike Trout. Look at how similar of a profile they have.
Fair.
I think this is a very underrated kind of batting profile.
Fair.
Yeah.
If you're a guy who looks at ratings and you don't see the Blues in there, you definitely want to avoid them. But if you're a guy who looks for players based on their production, which Harris does, it's a great signing.
Oh, I don't disagree, and I think that a team like Houston is going to miss him. I mean, we'll talk about this at a later episode, but when we go into our season prediction episode that we're going to do later on, there's a lot of shakeup happening in a lot of different divisions this offseason, in my opinion. There's a lot of shakeup. All right, let's go ahead and go to the good or the bad signings, pardon me, even though we made these sound like they were either good or bad.
Yeah.
Why don't you start us off, Tom? Because I'm really intrigued by your guy.
All right. My guy is Carlos Correa, signed by the Phillies to a 4-year, $116.5 million contract, which is about $30 million a year, give or take, with player option on the last year. And I don't know. I just feel like it's too much money. And I feel like he could have gotten somebody similar for the role that he needs to fill, considering the other third baseman on his team, which I forget who it is.
Yes, Machado.
Machado, right.
Yeah.
But you could have gone after a hitter with a 114 OPS to fill in, like Cousins, who was signed on a much cheaper deal. Or you could have gone after, if you were instead looking for that defense or that versatility, you could have gone after Adalberto Mondesi. But to me, there's no doubt Correa is a great player still. And actually, if he's eligible for a re-rate, and he probably is, that could maybe bump him up a little bit and push this contract to be
Looks like he is.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that it wasn't a value play. It was give me a big name, and
it's not overwhelmingly bad. It just feels like too much. Just a little too much. It's just a little too much money for a guy who's just a little bit too worse than he should be.
And you know what? Shout out to JR for getting a draft pick out of him.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a good part. I think that's another good part. And you know what? As a guy who's also in the NL East in Denver, I'll let you attest to this as well. This division is probably one of the tougher divisions in eMLB. And the fact that Philly is under new regime, all the moves Miami has made, the fact that me and Atlanta got healthy and some of our big prospects are coming up this year, you obviously are getting healthy, and the Mets just won the World Series. This could be very similar to real-life AL East.
I mean, is there a weak division in the eMLB at this point? I mean,
I have a personal opinion on there's a few weak divisions.
There's definitely a last place, but I think every division is super competitive.
I don't think there's one more competitive than the NL East. The fact that you could go 4, maybe even 5 teams deep, I don't think you can say that about many other divisions.
Four teams, right? So we're going to go Washington, right? Obviously.
New
York.
Yep.
Miami's made a lot of moves to improve themselves. And I wouldn't say in it the entire year. That's 4.
I wouldn't say Miami's getting competitive this year.
That's 4. I don't know where you're getting 5.
Yeah, you're gonna lump in the team that
remember that
15.
No, yeah. Keep it coming. It's all right. No, but I honestly think the NL East is the most competitive division in eMLB.
I mean, we were battling all season.
They were battling all season.
Last
I'd
year.
say if we were to rank them by most competitive 1 through 5, you say NL East 1 for sure.
Maybe most competitive. I could agree with that. Like, because every team seems to like be close to each other in terms of how good they are. It's definitely not the strongest division though.
No.
No.
Because we play each other, so much.
Yeah, you just beat up on each other, and that's.
I think we ended up with I think Washington only ended up with 80 wins, 80 some wins last year.
It was 89.
Yeah, they had 89 wins. The problem is that we all play each other 18 times a year. I don't know under the new schedule format how many times we're going to play each other. But the fact of the matter is that we play each other a lot, so
it was 89.
We're beating up on each other. So you're happy if you go, let's say with 18 games, if you go 9-9 against your interdivision opponent, you're happy about that in the NL. We don't have the NL East doesn't have a New York Yankees they can beat up on,
or a Toronto Blue Jays. Sorry, Harris.
Sorry, Harris. Or a Oakland A's. Sorry, Danny.
Well, the AL West also has, I think, 4
or a Cleveland Indians.
That's right. No, yeah.
Hey!
Bottom 6, that's right.
I was going to say, I looked at the schedule. I don't know if it's the official one, but I play all NL East teams in the month of April.
All NL East teams in the month of April.
Yep.
Get an early showcase.
That's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
All right. We're getting off topic. We love to do this
Yes.
stuff.
A little bit, just a little.
All right, let's go to the next one. Denver, why don't you go?
Okay. I went with Will Smith to Chicago Cubbies. One reason is they promised him the closer role, and they already promised the closer role to Corey Knebel. So you have that where that can cause a team issue. So someone's going to be not happy unless you're just going to have 2 closers somehow. And it's a lot of money for a guy that's going into his 37th year, 37 years old, 13th year.
He's coming off a really good season.
It's coming off a really good season, but you already had a closer that didn't have. I don't think he had a bad season last year. Enable.
Two of your
he had
top
48
or not.
Yeah, he's one of the top saves last year.
He had 48 saves, but the BABIP was 320, and the year before that it was 361. I mean, here's my thing: he's getting older. He's gonna start declining at some point, and also the fact of the matter is you're paying him that much money. I don't see it, and I think this is a very, very bad sign.
So they have
the top 7 salaries for
this season. Yeah, they have $22 million for Kimbrel, and he's promised a closer role. So what are you gonna do?
Tell me, what was your biggest knock on the Cubs last year when they were in the playoffs? They had a bad pitching staff bullpen, and they just went out and they got the best guy, the best reliever on the market. You know, they're patching holes. Yes, they pay a premium, but this was the best reliever on the market, in my opinion.
I don't disagree with that, but I think you overpaid for him.
If you want that premium,
yeah, you pay for the talent.
Here's the thing.
You have to pay.
Chicago is playing in a tough division in the NL Central, which no one's going to disagree with. But you're signing a bunch of these older players that after next year. Yes, you've got young guys, but are you really going to be able to do much after that? Because you're going to have so much salary and older contracts that you're not going to be able to move.
I feel like that money would have been better spent trying to pursue rotation upgrades instead of bullpen upgrades.
That's fair.
He's also one of the first relief pitchers to go off for big money in the signings. So,
well, Senior, why don't you talk to us about what signing you thought?
Oh, I took the easy layup. I feel like I picked Nicky Lopez, the Oakland signing. I just feel it's way too much money. I mean, it's nicely structured where, escalates up and then descales back down. It's just too many years for someone who I don't think is going to age well at that position. You might be able to move him to another position, keep the bat in, but then you're counting on that bat to keep performing. It's just a lot.
It's going to be his age 40 season in his contract year. Mm-hmm. That's a long contract and a rough amount of money for a player of Nicky Lopez's caliber. He's not a 9-year. He's not a 9-year, roughly $17 million a year kind of guy, and you promise him the starting lineup role. You look at his stats and nothing jumps out to you as this guy's going to be insane. I mean, last year in Kansas City, a 281 average, a 705 OPS, only a 94 OPS plus. He only gave you 4 homers, 56 RBIs. Only stole 9 bags. I mean, you look at his ratings. He doesn't strike out a lot. He can run the bases a little bit, and he's a great infielder at second base and maybe a little bit of shortstop. But overall, is he really going to help your team for 9 years?
It's the money and it's the length. Like Nicky Lopez is a fine player. He was signed to a 3-year, $36 million deal.
3 with an option. Yes, 3 with the team option for the 4th.
Yeah, there's no even like player option in the middle. If you
no opt out.
have the chance.
Yeah, no opt out. Right.
This is gonna and really this deal would be bad no matter who signed him.
Yeah.
This deal is made infinitely worse by it being Oakland who signed him. Oakland, who has a budget of 170, that's in a 2-way tie for fourth smallest budget. He is spending, and alongside another big signing he made, he is spending 25% of his budget on 2 players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, he's got the first pick in the draft this year. He could probably draft a guy number 1 overall that's better than Nicky Lopez already.
Yeah, we're still interested to see what happens. You know, CCPs will roll in as CCPs roll in, and everything like that. Brenden, let's go ahead and talk about yours, because I think we're going to want to spend a lot of time on mine.
Yes, we are.
So let's talk about yours, shall we?
All right, we're gonna go back to Chicago. And we're gonna stay on the same position. We're gonna talk about Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers
is he such a bad signing?
Is a really good hitter. I think Brendan Rodgers deserved a big contract. I do not think that you can justify giving Brendan Rodgers $153 million over 5 years. This is the kind of move a team who has way too much money to spend and is desperate to make improvements does, and they end up handcuffing their finances a couple years down the road because they have too much money invested in a player who doesn't live up to those expectations.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I also don't know how good his bat is going to be outside of Coors Field.
I mean,
how much was it inflated?
The adjusted stats are nice to him. His 833 OPS is good for a 124 OPS plus once you adjust for the park, which means he should still be productive with Chicago. He should still be a productive bat. He's not an average of $30 million a year bat.
Definitely not.
Agreed.
The question also, like I look at him, and my question also says, can he play the infield for as many years as you have him signed for? Like, will he be able to hold up?
You'll probably take a little bit of a defensive hit at second base where he'll likely end up playing, which, that sucks, but it's not a premium defensive position. Or you can move him to DH or play him at first, frankly.
You look at his team, though, at second base. I mean, because he's obviously not playing third.
Correct.
He's obviously not playing short. The only spot you have for him is second base. So he has to play second base because you've got other guys who you need to use to DH, i.e. Giancarlo Stanton, i.e. I mean, that's really who you have.
Well, I bet you.
Carlos will be on after this year, probably.
Fair.
Yeah.
And not to mention probably the best player we've ever seen come out of the draft in Danny Smith Jr. out there in center field. The Cubs are either going to be really good or really bad this year, and there's no in between.
I think the odds are that they'll be pretty good or a 500.
I agree.
Like if their pitching staff implodes, they're like an 85 win team. If their pitching staff holds together, they are
on a 100 win team
running away.
Yeah.
All right. Brennan, I'm going to give you mine, and I'm going to need you to do some serious talking here. We're going to need some serious defense work. Nick Margevicius. What the charabah?
Well, here's why you're wrong. It's Margevicius.
Margevicius. Sorry, not worth the money of Vicious. Talk to me. What? Why?
All right. I don't like making big moves in free agency. I like being pretty conservative. I make a lot of small deals. This is the first large contract I've handed out. It might be the only large contract I ever hand out in free agency. I have eyeballed Margevicius since the middle of the 24 season as a player who I want to keep my eye on. He, over the last 5 years, he has operated intermittently out of the bullpen and in the rotation, and he has pitched extremely well. He is a good pitcher. He eats innings and he gets outs, and he does something really important, and that's avoiding hard contact. And I do feel like he has the ability, and he has the ability, and he has the production to justify 150 innings a year, 45 games. He gets you 20 to 25 starts, the rest out of the bullpen.
I think the instant reaction I got from this, and Tom, I'll let you hop in here after this, was the DM that multiple GMs sent me, including you, going, "What the F just happened?" Or, "Why did you make this deal?" Like, I think it's an overpay. I think it's frankly an overpay for the amount of time you signed him for. However, I think the coolest part about him is the fact that he has a second nationality of Lithuanian. I would like to point that out to the people.
Hey, he's not the only Lithuanian that got signed.
True. Tom, what were you going to say?
Okay, what is the difference between Margevicius and Jim Silla?
Production.
I suppose, yes, he has a better ERA, but he's also $15 million cheaper, and he's going to eat the same innings, if not more. I guess I again feel like the similar style of player, or even Margevicius himself, could have been acquired for less money.
I said it to you guys earlier. I have definitely I wake up every morning and I have a different opinion on it. I think overall I'm very happy with the deal, and I'm going to really enjoy him as a piece of my pitching staff. I don't mind giving the money up because I think, Ben said it in the chat the other day, there's no reason not to spend the Monopoly bucks. I believe in optimizing my budget as much as possible. I will spend every dollar that I'm allotted, and I had quite a bit of money that I had available to spend and move around, and I feel like it's going to be a depreciating deal. I have a role for him, and if he produces like he produced in San Diego, then he will fill that role well, and it will be worth the contract.
I like that.
At least by a war of dollars measure. I like
it. All right, so we're going to do two last things here before we sign off. We don't want to take up too much time here. All right, so the first one, I'll go ahead. I'm going to move to a different layout because I want to mess with the layouts a little bit. Sadir, you have the floor.
No.
You may be the new trade king. Talk to us.
No, I'm not even trying to be that. No, not at all. Seriously, I'm not. Like,
I mean, you've now made more trades than me.
So, like, I inherited a roster that wasn't mine. I gave it a whole year to do what it was going to do. I've identified what I feel are weaknesses on the major league roster, pieces that I'm not really attached to on my minor league depth and organization that I'm willing to make pieces move. I said it before on other podcasts. You have 300 to 400 players in your organization. You can only have 40 on your major league roster. You can really only develop so many at each level. If you're not targeting those pieces and trying to put that development into those pieces, then you're probably not doing it. That's how I feel. And I'm bringing in what I want, or starting to bring in my stamp at least.
So talk to me. We'll go back to the whole squad view here. You've made trades now with every GM in here since Winter League started, minus me.
Yes, since Winter League. Before Winter League, though, we had trades.
No, I'm saying since Winter League, however.
Yes, you were also on vacation, probably. So
I was indeed on vacation. So, what were these deals? And I want to ask each of the other GMs in here. Do you guys, obviously, you made the deal because you feel like it helps your team, but why does it help your team? Because I feel like that's something we never talk about on these shows.
Okay, who do you want to start with?
Let's start with
who wants to go first?
Let's start with Denbrew, because I feel like we haven't heard too much from him today.
Excellent.
Awesome. So, by now. I would think by now that when will this post?
Hopefully with it before the next sit.
Okay, so this trade has been announced, but the trade between me and Savior, it just helps me fill roles that I got rid of in another trade that I made. Kind of because of my trade with Miami, I had to fill up, and also losing Louis Guillorme in free agency. I needed a better defensive shortstop than I have on my roster right now. So that was one part. Trading Josh Stallman was another piece that I lost, and getting some relief pitching also helps with that. I mean, that's why I did it.
So what did the final deal come out to be?
Was 3 of my minor league players for Paulino, shortstop.
Shiro Laporte, a relief pitcher.
Yeah.
And then Lenny Torres, he's on the 40-man, but he's like a prospect starting pitcher.
Yeah.
Interesting. Sadir, what was your take on this deal? Was this just trying to get some guys off the 40-man and bring in some more prospects that you can develop?
Yeah, Paulino being a light-hitting defensive guy, I actually feel like, I mean, I'll lose that, but I really don't need that. Lindor's starting, so he's not filling a role on the major league roster. He was easily traded. I was targeting, as you'll see in the other trades, getting rid of relief pitchers. If they had value to other people, when you're a rebuilding team, a dominant reliever has more value to a contending team than a rebuilding team. I can put younger arms there, so moving out the order arms helps.
Yeah.
I bring back, it's going to be 19-year-old Cy Nichols, pretty high prospect. And it took some work to get him. Ty Prowse, an Australian pitcher. And Mike Farrow, center fielder, with some range at second base, I believe.
Interesting. All right, let's go ahead and go to your trade with Brenden. What was the details of Brenden? Tell me why you did it.
I dealt. Actually, I'll start with what I got, and then I'll say what I gave up. I got Danny Johnson, a minor league reliever who I had been targeting, who had been on my watch list for a while, and I've been wanting. And I followed him move from San Diego over to Cleveland, and I also got Jorge Silva, who is a player who I traded to Sadir.
No. Rivas. Quit trying to get Silva. Quit trying to get Silva on the slide, bro.
I traded him to Jorge Rivas, who I traded in the really, really ill-fated Taylor Widener deal, and I wanted him back. And then in exchange, he got Giancarlo Stanton, who has struggled in the majors, but definitely would probably benefit from his place where he can actually play consistently. And the man, the myth, the legend, the Chubby franchise. One of my minor leaguers.
Interesting.
And $4.6 million in cash.
Yes, and $4.6 million in cash, so I can pay for his re-rate.
That's right.
Interesting. I like it. So Sadir's re-rate of Aaron Judge basically only cost him $9 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the contract. Yeah, 9.4. Yeah, 9.4.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Sadir, do you feel like you made out okay in that deal?
Yeah. That one, so Rivas again was Widener. So if you look at it, you know what I mean? I'm fine dealing back. I really wanted Giancarlo, like, badly. At one point, the other Jorge was on the table and who we were talking. So that's why he keeps getting brought up, Silva. So I was willing to deal a pretty good prospect to get him back, just not 1-for-1. So we tabled that and we came back. That's when we started talking Rivas. And like I said, Danny Johnson was just Aaron Sabal, I believe. Or let me see exactly who he was. It was a pitcher I wanted to get rid of, so it didn't hurt me.
Yeah.
In my mind, that it was just another prospect that you're bringing in and you were able to flip that fast. I never saw him play, right? So it didn't hurt.
Fair enough. All right, and then Tom, talk to me a little bit about your deal that you made with Sadir.
All right, Sadir, we made a deal of relievers.
Mm-hmm.
I brought in Riley Farrell in exchange for Zach Gallen and Rogelio Flores.
Yes.
Who's a prospect in AAA. So I was been kind of sitting on my hands all off season. I haven't signed anybody to a major league contract out of free agency, and I'm just sitting here watching Texas sap up all this reliever talent. And coming off of last year where I barely edged them out for the division championship, I just said, all right, game on. It's an arms race now. I got to upgrade. And so Zach Gallen, I signed him as a minor league free agent last year, and he pitched really well for me. So I'm just kind of – he's got a lot of service time left, but I'm kind of selling him high, I think. I don't expect him to come back to a 1-point-something ERA like he pitched for me last year.
Yeah.
And Rogelio Flores is a great-looking relief prospect. He's just got really questionable control, which I think has the potential to hold him back in the majors.
Yeah, you and I early had some limited conversations about Zach Gallen. I know nothing ever came to fruition, but I really like what he brings to the table. And honestly, like I know I'm just looking at it through blank eyes. And Brenden, I'd like to hear your take on this as well as Denver. I think Sadier made out like a bandit almost, in my opinion.
He gets a lot of years of control.
Yep. And that's huge.
But I think that pitchers like Riley Farrell have fared really well on my team. He's an extreme ground baller, high movement type of guy. And, I just re-signed Melvin Simmons at shortstop. Like I'm trying to take full advantage of the defense I have on the infield. So I think, he's coming off a 2.5 ERA. He's getting paid $5 million a year for the next 2 years, which, is decent value. It's not great, but it's decent.
Yeah. I actually think that Tom wins this trade by quite a lot. I feel like Gallen is such a massive unknown. He pitched 12 games. Yeah, he had a low ERA. He pitched in 12 games. Like, sure, it could really pan out for Sadier, and this is why Sadier makes that deal, because it's a low risk, high reward type player to get. And he obviously didn't really have much of a need for Farrell, so dealing him is optimal for him. And Tom, you're getting a excellent reliever that'll help you keep up in the AOS bullpen arm race.
And that's why I actually signed him at the end of the year. I realized it was an arm that if I could just sign at a decent contract, I could flip for something. Yeah. He's been on the trade block all off season. Not many people actually sniffed on him. So.
Well, I came looking at a different guy at first, but you weren't having it.
No, no. Chris Wilson, no.
All right, let's go ahead and do one last thing. This is a new segment we're going to do every single episode called The Hot Seat if we have a guest. So each of you guys are going to get into the hot seat for a moment. I'm going to ask, including Brennan, you're going to sit in the hot seat for this one. I'm going to ask you guys 2 questions apiece. It's quick fire. Just answer it with the first guy who comes to mind, okay? So we'll go ahead and move to this view. I'm going to start at the bottom here with Tom.
Tom, all right.
Give me the player on your team who's going to break out this season.
Who would break out? Sam Bianco.
Sam Bianco, all right. And then give me the team, not in your division, who you're most afraid of. It can be your league or a different league.
Most afraid of, not in my division. Probably the Cubs with the full season of Danny D.
Full season of Danny D. All right. Denbrew, you're up next here. All right. Different questions for each person because I don't want you being ready and prepared. All right. So go ahead and tell me the most, in your opinion, the most feared pitching staff in the NL East.
Pitching staff. Oh, NL East? Okay.
NL East most feared pitching staff.
It's Washington.
I like that. I like
Diggs and Irving as 1-2. Irvin's probably,
good choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a bad choice.
I don't disagree with that.
I think he should have got himself.
I think so. All right, and then Denbrew, your second question. Tell me the person who in the National League is going to end up with the most home runs this season.
I mean, Danny Smith or Michael Shonkain. I kind of am high on him too.
I don't disagree. You know what, Brendan? I'm going to put myself behind the logo. That way everyone can see your beautiful face from now on. All right. Next up is Sadier into the hot seat. All right, Sadier, who has the best lineup in the AL Central?
Tigers.
Tigers. All right, and who has got the best bullpen in the AL?
In the AL?
Mm-hmm.
What's an AL West team? No, I'm serious. It is. I'm gonna go Rangers.
Rangers. Fair. I know Tom wanted that one going.
I know. I'm sorry.
He was over there looking for it.
Yep. All right, Brenden, you're in the hot seat. And Brenden, I will give you the option if you'd like to put me in the hot seat, you can, if you feel so obliged.
I'll think of something.
First question for you: the most overrated player in eMLB.
The most overrated player in eMLB.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Brendan's got a whole list of those guys.
Let's go James LeBlanc. Let's go
Wow.
James. He had a great season last year, but you know what? I'm not high on him keeping it there. I think he gets pumped a lot because he's Kermish's boy.
7.8 WAR season.
How can you say that? Wow.
Wow. Oh wow. I'm stunned. All right.
Stunned.
Second question for you: how many teams out of the AL East will make the playoffs this year?
2.
2? All right, fair enough. All right, and then I guess I'll move myself. Brendan, you're back behind the logo.
I am back behind the logo. All right, I'm going to ask you the same question inverted. How many teams out of the NL East make the playoffs?
3.
3. And are you one of them?
I am. I don't know if it's out of the division, but I think with my pitching staff hopefully being healthy, with some of the guys we're calling up and some of the moves we made to get rid of some guys and bring in some guys, and also hopefully the re-rate I'm going to do, I think we are a much better team than we were last year. Plus, also my understanding of how OOTP works will play a big factor into doing better this year. All right. So that was the hot seat segment. That is going to be a new segment we're going to do every week here or whenever we record an episode. I won't promise every week because we don't do that. Any final thoughts from anyone? Anything anyone would like to say here as we wrap up?
When is Ian Happ going to sign? This guy's been sitting there. Victor Robles.
It's been a strange offseason.
It has been a strange offseason.
It has been a very strange offseason. Well, if no one else has anything, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you join the Discord in the description down below to learn all more and hear us. You can also jump into the new voice channel that was recently created. A lot of us are in there a lot of the time, so you can come hang out, talk with us about different things. Please join the Discord. If you want to join the Twitch channel as well, you can follow that down below, and you can listen to all of Kamish's past streams on here as well as all the other episodes. I have, according to my sources, there is going to be an episode of the Insider Podcast that's actually being recorded as we speak. So that one will be coming out soon. I'm not sure which one's come out. It's either has come out or is coming out after this episode, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Andrew and JR do a great job over there. And then as well, make sure to follow Kamish on Twitch, Twitter, wherever you follow him. And if you'd like to create your own player, either play mini games and get 1,000 points, or you can sub to him as well for the upcoming draft. Guys, spring training is just a few weeks away. I think we're all excited and ready to go. So for Tom, the Angels GM, for Denbrew, the Mets GM, Sadier, the Cleveland Indians GM, Brenden, the Orioles GM, as well as my co-host, I'm Aiden Pearson, the Braves GM. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see y'all next time.